Welcome back to another episode of the Jacksonville Buzz. I'm Steve Strum. This morning we have Jennii Kosmowski from CMIT Solutions of Southwest Jacks, SW Jacks?
Yes.
All right, well, you and I had an opportunity to talk a little bit offline on what you do. What is CMIT Solutions?
So CMIT Solutions is a local owned and operated MSP for IT services. So we do software, hardware, and our big thing is really servicing small to medium-sized businesses. So we don't really want to go for those giant enterprise. We're trying to actually take that level of quality and expertise to local businesses.
Hardware, software,
Yep.
A little bit of both?
Yes,
All right,
absolutely.
so we can't run life without a computer.
Yeah.
Right? We're sitting here talking and there's, cameras behind the set, and there's computers that control the cameras. There's computers that control printers. There are computers that control your phone. Recently there was a small, wireless network outage that
Yep.
made a lot of news in your department. So talk to us a little bit about what is happening in the world of IT security and how that's changing and evolving, and why your medium to small customer base is potentially even the target for cyber criminals.
Oh, absolutely, it's the target for cyber criminals because they're the ones who are probably the least informed and don't have as many resources available to them to hire like the top security companies, best know-how in the industry to protect themselves, their client data, and plan for if everything does go to crap. Let's say everything does shut down tomorrow. What is their plan? Right, they don't have someone who can do that emergency planning for them, and so small businesses are exactly who they want to target because small businesses are their avenue to larger businesses.
Well, and it doesn't necessarily even mean it's all guaranteed. A few years ago, I think it was Capital One had a data breach.
Yes.
From a service that they provided from an organization, I believe it was AWS, which is one of the predominant cybersecurity companies out there. Just because you have it doesn't mean it's guaranteed, but the bad guys are going after stuff. And so why does, the guy that owns a plumbing company care about cybersecurity when he's got 3 or 4 computers and a printer? Like, what does he even care?
I think one of the ones that everyone can relate to is a payment system. Everyone has to use some sort of payment system, and there's no way you can only do checking cash these days.
Correct.
Right? You have to do something digital. You're using Stripe most likely, or Square to accept.
Or one of those machines that you rent that.
Exactly, and all of those are an example of a vendor that you use that's a big name, right? I can say that and everyone goes, I've heard of that, I've seen it before. So we're all connected to those bigger networks that impact everybody else, and if you're not protecting your own account, right? Your own information, your own computers, that's an avenue to get into the network. That is an open door into Square's network, into Stripe's network, and then that's how you can compromise a big system, starting with the small guys, because that's easier than trying to infiltrate AWS, right?
Sure, they're a little bigger.
Yeah.
But so when we talk about these things, right, and you think about the small business owner and all of those breach points. Now, you are the construction guy, and you have a trade secret about a housing trust or something like that. Of course, you don't want that data to be leaked. That's important data. That makes you special for what you do.
Yeah.
But now we also have a potential breach then of the client data, which is even worse. Tell us a little bit about how that operates and how companies get basically a pirate situation where they got to pay a bunch of money and they still have all this data leaked.
Oh yeah, so you're talking about 2 really big things
That's
here.
Big deal.
Yeah, client data is a huge one. Employee data is big because companies will hold on to that. One of the sectors that I really relate to with this is education. Do you realize how much information we put into schools when we apply? Like you give them your whole medical history, your family history, your family's medical history to qualify for scholarships, and you give them everything, and then they have to store that for a period of time. Well, how are they storing that, right? And so that's the question we should be asking companies that we work with. How are you storing this data, and then how do you dispose of it? So that's one thing. Protecting client data is a huge piece of it. The other side, lost my train of thought. What was the other thing that you asked, the second part?
The first one was the data that's leaked, the trade secrets, but then the consumer data. So I think we kind of covered that. But
trade data, that's a big one.
There is so much we can talk about, right? I mean, you hear the horror stories, for people that are watching this. Literally, nobody thinks about the printer. But if you have a printer that's networked to a bunch of computers and they can hack the printer, not only can they get all the images that you scan on the printer, but they can go back through the channel and actually access computers through the printer behind the firewall, which is a big, that's a buffet of anything they want.
If you're using a scanner or a printer or a cock machine, they all connect to either wirelessly or direct connect to your internet. And those all run off of their own IPs, and that's a network of its own. And anything that runs on that network is accessible in some way, shape, or form through something like a printer. So that's called an Internet of Things attack, which is where you have smart homes now that control your lights, your security system, your thermostat, your lock systems on your homes too, if we're using keypads, so keyless entry. And the thing is that what you talked about too is if someone steals that data, they can hold it for what's called a ransom. And so then we have a ransomware attack, which is where they can say, we'll hold your data unless you pay us an amount, and then we'll give it back. The thing is, sometimes they will actually give it back encrypted, so you have to pay another fee on top of that to get it decrypted, and after that, you still don't know if they've messed with the data. So then you've got all kinds of concerns that you can't go backtrack.
It's like a perpetual universe of, oh my gosh. Now, you have a podcast that you do.
I do.
As we wrap this down, and we'll put all the stuff on our website on thedailynewsnetwork.com so that they can kind of check you out. But tell us a little bit about your podcast. I thought one of the neat things there was that you are educating people. It's not just, hey, buy all my stuff and freak you out. You're actually putting content out there to help people be more informed. Talk to us a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah. So I operate as a solutions engineer for the company, as well as the owner, but also my big thing is to be able to be someone you can consult with. I'm here to give advice all day. My priority is making sure all of Jacksonville and their clients are protected on the cyber domain. So I have a free podcast here, and this is available on Spotify. You can see it there. We have iHeartRadio as well. And we also have a Twitter page that you can follow updates and just kind of get really good resources to just educate yourself. That's my big thing. If you know who the enemy is and how they operate, you can better protect yourself. Be informed.
And for people that don't necessarily understand cybersecurity, let's boil it down to something people do understand.
Yeah.
A bank robbery, right? So we have a bank robbery, they come into the bank, they've got guns. Okay, well, if security has better guns, then there's a chance, right? You have an opportunity. But the bad guys in your world, the guns that they're bringing to the fight, if you will, are like bazookas and missile launchers now, where you might be sitting there with like a butter knife. If you're a local small business owner who's watching this and you're like, oh my God, I've got payment stripe, I've got the thermostat thing, I've got a printer, I've got computers. You are unprotected. Literally, these bad guys are coming in with an invisible bazooka because you don't even know that they have one until all of a sudden they drop it on you and you're like, that's a problem, and you're holding a butter knife, basically, is what's happening. And your job is to try to disarm the bazooka before it goes off, and if they do sneak a bazooka in, that your customers will have their own bazooka to fight back with, is kind of what you do, both on hardware and software, which is a phenomenal thing. What we'll do is we'll make sure to hang on thedailynewsnetwork.com all your links. Really appreciate the opportunity to understand a little bit more about what you do, and I appreciate thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Great conversation today. Thank you so much.
Guys, thanks so much for joining us on the Jacksonville Buzz. If you like us, share us, and remember, live with gratitude.